The day Earth's orphanage was bombed, I was brushing my teeth with experimental nanopaste that tasted like regret and corporate greed. Then again, everything tastes like that when you're one of Earth's forgotten children. "Ellie, you're going to be late for calibration," called Nova, my bunkmate and the closest thing to a friend I had in this sterile hell we called home. Her voice carried that familiar mix of concern and resignation that all 18-year-old orphans develop after a decade in the system. I spat into the sink, watching the gray foam swirl down the drain. Maybe I want to be late. Maybe I want Director Kwan to notice me for once. "Trust me," Nova said, her dark eyes meeting mine in the mirror, "being noticed isn't all it's cracked up to be." She would know. Nova had been noticed 3 years ago, and the neural implant scar behind her ear was her constant reminder. Earth's orphanage wasn't just any orphanage. It was the orphanage. The only one left after the resource wars of 2079 decimated most of humanity's infrastructure. Located in what used to be Switzerland, it housed some 800 kids from around the globe, all of us united by two things: no surviving family and unusually high aptitude scores. The orphanage was part school, part laboratory, and part military installation, though no one ever said that last part out loud. We were humanity's future, or so the propaganda holos reminded us daily. I always figured that was just a nice way of saying we were expendable. I grabbed my slate and followed Nova down the gleaming white corridor toward the calibration chambers. The building hummed with the quiet efficiency of a place that had long ago sacrificed warmth for function. My bare feet made no sound on the temperature-regulated floor. "Did you hear about the new defense grid they're testing?" Nova whispered, her lips barely moving. I nodded. "Atmospheric, right? Supposed to detect anything larger than a meteorite. Seems like overkill for a bunch of orphans," she said, her voice tinged with the dry humor that had helped us survive here. We reached the calibration chambers, joining the line of blank-faced teenagers waiting their turn. Nobody talked much on calibration days. The process wasn't painful, exactly, but having your brain mapped and your neural pathways adjusted wasn't anyone's idea of a good time. That's when I saw him, Dr. Amir Khan, the newest addition to the orphanage's scientific team. Unlike the other doctors with their cold, clinical demeanors, Dr. Khan had laugh lines around his eyes and a habit of actually looking at us when he spoke. Rumor had it he'd fought against the more extreme experiments the orphanage conducted. Rumor also had it he was on his way out because of it. "Ellie Reeves," he called, consulting his slate. "You're up." As I stepped forward, alarms began to wail throughout the facility. Not the usual drill alarms, these were higher-pitched, more urgent. "What's happening?" I asked, but Dr. Khan was already moving, his face ashen. "Code Crimson," he said, grabbing my arm. "Come with me. Now." Code Crimson. In all my years at the orphanage, we'd never had a Code Crimson. We'd drilled for every emergency imaginable, fire, earthquake, biohazard, but Code Crimson remained theoretical. It meant we were under attack. The lights shifted to a pulsing red as Dr. Khan pulled me down a corridor I'd never been allowed to enter. Behind us, I heard Nova calling my name, but Dr. Khan's grip was iron. "What about the others?" I demanded, struggling against him. "There's no time," he said, his voice tight. "They're evacuating through the main tunnels. We need to get to the secure lab." The secure lab. Another rumor confirmed. Why me? Why not anyone else? Dr. Khan punched a code into a panel, and a hidden door slid open. "Because you're special, Ellie. Your neural mapping shows patterns we've never seen before." "What does that have to do with?" The building shook violently, cutting me off. Dust rained from the ceiling as the lights flickered. Dr. Khan shoved me through the doorway, and we tumbled into a circular room filled with screens and equipment I couldn't begin to understand. "Stay here," he commanded, rushing to a console. I stood frozen, watching as he worked the controls with practiced urgency. The screens around us came to life, showing exterior views of the orphanage. What I saw made my blood run cold. The sky above the facility was torn open, not by any natural phenomenon but by what looked like a hole in reality itself. Through this rupture poured sleek, obsidian ships, each one firing pulses of energy that shattered buildings and scorched the earth. Orbital defense grid is down, Dr. Khan muttered, his fingers flying over the controls. How did they get past it? Who are they? I asked, my voice small in the face of what I was seeing. Dr. Khan didn't answer immediately. Instead, he pulled up another screen showing a mass evacuation underway, hundreds of orphans being herded into underground tunnels. I spotted Nova among them, helping a younger child who had fallen. Good, he breathed. The evacuation protocols are working. Dr. Khan, I said, more forcefully. Who is attacking us? He turned to me, his eyes grave. We call them the Harvesters. They're not from Earth. The words hung in the air between us, too enormous to immediately process. Despite all our advances, despite decades of searching the stars, humanity had never made confirmed contact with intelligent alien life. And now they were bombing our orphanage. Why would aliens attack an orphanage? I asked, the absurdity of it hitting me harder than the fear. Because this isn't just an orphanage, Ellie. It's Earth's last defense. Another explosion rocked the building, closer this time. A crack spread across one of the screens. We don't have much time, Dr. Khan said, pulling what looked like a neural interface helmet from a cabinet. I need to activate the orphan protocol. The what? It's why you're all here. Why we've been calibrating your minds. Earth's orphanage was created to train humanity's counter-response to exactly this scenario. My mind reeled. You're saying we were brought here to fight aliens? That's insane. We're just kids. Not just kids, Dr. Khan corrected, his voice gentle despite the urgency. Neurologically compatible candidates. Your brains can form connections that adult brains can't. Connections we need to interface with the technology we recovered from their scout ship 20 years ago. 20 years ago. When I was born. When many of us were born. The implications crashed over me like a tidal wave. You bred us for this. The aptitude tests, the calibrations, it was all to prepare us to fight. Dr. Khan's silence was answer enough. And now you expect me to what? Put on a helmet and save the world? I laughed bitterly. What happens to me if I do? I don't know, he admitted. No one does. The interface is theoretical. But you have the highest compatibility rating we've ever seen. If anyone can make it work, it's you. Another explosion, and this time the room shook so violently that equipment crashed to the floor. An alarm blared, indicating a breach in the facility's main dome. We're out of time, Dr. Khan said, offering me the helmet. It's your choice, Ellie. But without the interface, Earth doesn't stand a chance. I stared at the helmet, thinking of Nova, of the hundreds of orphans evacuating below, of the billions of people who had no idea what was happening. Then I thought of my entire life in this place, being poked and prodded and calibrated for a war I didn't ask for. If I do this, I said, I want the truth. All of it. Dr. Khan nodded. You'll have it. The interface will show you everything. I took the helmet, its weight surprisingly light in my hands. This better not fry my brain, document. Such faith, he said with a grim smile. Ready? I placed the helmet on my head, and Dr. Khan began the activation sequence. The world around me faded as neural connectors established their links with my brain. I expected pain, but instead there was a rushing sensation, like being pulled into a whirlpool of information. Connection established. Welcome, Ellie Reeves, to the Orphan Protocol, *. The voice wasn't audible, it was in my head, feminine and calm despite the chaos raging around us. I am Aria, Advanced Response Intelligence Algorithm. I will be your guide through the interface, *. What's happening to me? I thought, and to my surprise, Arya answered. Your neural pathways are now connected to Earth's defense network and the recovered alien technology. Through you, we can now control the countermeasures, asterisk. Images flooded my mind. Technical schematics, tactical analyses, weapon systems I'd never imagined. And more, memories that weren't mine, showing the recovery of an alien craft, the discovery of its technology, the decision to create the orphanage as a training ground for compatible minds. The bombing, I thought. We need to stop it. Accessing orbital defense grid. Bypassing damaged systems. Rerouting through secondary nodes, asterisk. In my mind's eye, I could see the alien ships, could feel their presence like dark spots in my consciousness. With a thought, I activated the defense grid. Satellites that had been dormant came online, their weapons systems targeting the invaders. Ellie, you're doing it. Dr. Khan's voice seemed distant. The orbital defense grid is responding. Warning, harvester ships are deploying ground forces. Facility breach imminent, asterisk. The other orphans, I thought desperately. Are they safe? Evacuation 78% complete. Estimating 175 individuals still within the facility, asterisk. Nova. Was she among those still inside? I tried to access the security feeds, and suddenly I could see through every camera in the building. There she was, helping the younger children into the escape tunnels. Relief flooded through me. But my relief was short-lived. The feed from the main entrance showed dark figures entering the facility, humanoid but wrong somehow, their movements too fluid, their forms shifting slightly as if not fully committed to a single shape. Harvesters detected within the facility. Activating internal defense protocols, asterisk. With another thought, I sealed off sections of the building, trapping several of the invaders. Security drones activated, engaging the intruders with non-lethal measures that seemed to have little effect. Why are they called harvesters? I asked Arya. They harvest neurological tissue from compatible species. Your compatibility is what draws them, asterisk. Horror washed over me. They're here for our brains. Simplified but accurate. Your neural architecture is similar to a component in their technology. They view you as resources, not people, asterisk. How do we stop them? Complete integration with the interface will unlock access to converted harvester technology, including their weapon systems, asterisk. Complete integration. What does that mean? It means becoming one with the system. Your consciousness would expand beyond your physical form, asterisk. Would I still be me? Arya's response was slower this time. Asterisk unknown. No human has achieved complete integration before, asterisk. Another explosion rocked the facility. The security feed showed the harvesters advancing through the building, now only 2 sections away from the secure lab. Dr. Khan, I called out, they're coming for us. You need to complete the integration, he urged. It's the only way to activate the defensive capabilities. But I might lose myself. You might. But if you don't, we all die. I could see the evacuation was now 90% complete. Nova had made it to the tunnels. Most of the orphans were safe. But the harvesters were spreading throughout the facility, and soon they would reach the surface, spreading across the planet. What about you? I asked Dr. Khan. You should evacuate too. He shook his head. My place is here, monitoring the interface. Whatever happens, I won't leave you. His words touched something inside me, a longing for connection I'd buried under years of institutional indifference. Here was someone who saw me as more than just a test subject, more than just an orphan. Will it hurt? I asked. Integration is not painful, but it is irreversible, asterisk. I thought about my life at the orphanage, the endless tests, the isolation, the feeling of being a specimen rather than a person. What was I giving up, really? But there was Nova, and the other orphans. There was Dr. Khan. There was a world out there I'd never really seen, filled with people who didn't even know they were under attack. If I do this, I said, I want something in return. What would you like, asterisk? Humanity learns to fight without limits. No more orphans trained as weapons. No more secrets. Everyone knows what's out there, and everyone has a chance to defend themselves. That is a policy decision beyond my programmed parameters, asterisk. Then I need a human answer, I said, looking at Dr. Khan. Promise me. He met my gaze, understanding in his eyes. I promise, Ellie. No more secrets. No more using children as weapons. I nodded, my decision made. Then let's do this. Initiating complete integration, asterisk. The world dissolved around me, my consciousness expanding beyond the confines of my physical form. I was everywhere and nowhere, flowing through systems and networks, touching minds and machines. I could feel the presence of the harvesters, alien and cold, driven by a hunger I could not comprehend. And I could feel something else. A connection to every human within range, a network of minds all linked through me. The orphans, the scientists, even the harvesters themselves, all connected in a web of consciousness I never knew existed. Integration complete. Orphan protocol fully activated, asterisk. The words echoed through my expanded awareness as I reached out with newfound power, ready to make the harvesters regret the day they bombed Earth's orphanage. Power coursed through me like electricity finding new pathways. One moment I was Ellie Reeves, orphan and lab rat, the next, I was something more, a consciousness spread across systems and networks, touching minds and machines with equal ease. Through security cameras, I watched the harvesters move through the facility. They were humanoid but wrong, their limbs too fluid, their movements unnaturally graceful. Their faces were blank masks with no features, just smooth obsidian surfaces that reflected the emergency lights. They're approaching the secure lab, Arya informed me. Estimated time to breach, 3 minutes. Dr. Khan, I said, my voice sounding distant to my own ears, you need to get out of here. He shook his head, eyes fixed on the monitoring equipment. Not happening, Ellie. I'm seeing unprecedented integration levels. Your mind is adapting to the interface faster than we ever projected. Great. I'm exceeding expectations while aliens are trying to scoop out my brain. Just another Tuesday at Earth's orphanage. My sarcasm made him smile briefly before his expression turned serious again. Can you access the defense systems? I reached out with my expanded consciousness, feeling for the connections. Yes. I see them. The orphanage had defenses beyond anything publicly acknowledged, energy barriers, drone swarms, even weapons platforms that could target with surgical precision. All of them linked to the same alien technology that powered the interface I was now merged with. With a thought, I activated everything. Throughout the facility, hidden panels slid open as security measures came online. Pulse barriers materialized at key junctions, cutting off the harvester's advance. Drones deployed from ceiling compartments, swarming the intruders with disabling electrical charges. Warning, Arya intoned. Harvesters are adapting to countermeasures. Effectiveness decreasing. She was right. I could see through the cameras as the aliens began to phase through the energy barriers, their bodies temporarily dissipating like smoke before reforming on the other side. The drone's electrical attack slowed them momentarily but caused no lasting damage. They're learning, I said. Adapting to each defense as I deploy it. Dr. Khan's fingers flew across his console. Their neural structure allows for real-time adaptation. It's what makes their technology so advanced. An idea struck me. If they can adapt, so can I. I dove deeper into the interface, past the pre-programmed defenses and into the raw code of the alien technology itself. The structure was unlike anything human-designed, organic, flowing, more like a living ecosystem than software architecture. Caution advised, Arya warned. Direct manipulation of alien code may have unpredictable effects on your consciousness. Noted, I replied, already reshaping and reconfiguring. But sitting here waiting to be harvested isn't an option. As I worked, I became aware of another presence in the system, or rather, thousands of presences. The other orphans, evacuated to the bunkers below, were still connected to the orphanage's network through their neural implants. I could feel them, their fear and confusion radiating like heat signatures. Dr. Khan, the other orphans, they're all linked to this system, aren't they? He hesitated before answering. Yes. The calibration synchronized their neural patterns with the network. In theory, any of them could connect to the interface. In theory? You mean I'm the guinea pig? You're the only one with a high enough compatibility rating to survive full integration, he said quietly. The others, the risk was too great. A bitter laugh escaped me. How considerate of you. The harvesters were now one section away from the secure lab. The modified defenses I deployed were slowing them, but not stopping them. We needed something more. The others might not be able to fully integrate, I said, but they could still help. I can feel them through the network. Dr. Khan looked alarmed. What are you suggesting? A partial connection. Not enough to risk their minds, but enough to borrow their processing power. Like a neural botnet. That's never been attempted, he protested. The strain on their implants will be minimal if I distribute it properly, I finished. I can see the whole network, Doctor. I know how to make this work. The door to the lab shuddered as something heavy impacted it from the other side. We were out of time. Do it, Dr. Khan said. I reached out across the network, touching hundreds of minds simultaneously. Not invasively, I didn't want to control them, just connect them. Nova, I called silently, focusing on the familiar neural signature of my friend. I need your help. I felt her startled recognition. Ellie? How are you in my head? Long story. The orphanage isn't what we thought. None of us are. I need your help to fight back. She didn't hesitate. Tell me what to do. Spread the word. Tell everyone to accept the connection when they feel it. It won't hurt, and it could save us all. As Nova rallied the others, I began to establish the connections. Hundreds of partial interfaces, each contributing a fraction of their processing capacity to the whole. I could feel their presence, their strength flowing into the system. Connection established with 732 neural interfaces, Arya reported. System capacity increased by 8,275%. The lab door buckled inward as the harvesters intensified their assault. Metal screamed as it deformed under forces it was never designed to withstand. Now or never, Ellie, Dr. Khan said, bracing himself against a console. With the combined power of hundreds of augmented minds, I delved into the alien code structure, unraveling its secrets. The harvesters' technology was based on neurological principles. Their ships, their weapons, even their bodies were extensions of their consciousness, malleable and adaptable. And if they could adapt, so could we. I rewrote the defense systems on the fly, not just countering the harvesters' adaptations but anticipating them. The drones reconfigured, their electrical charges shifting frequency in patterns the aliens couldn't predict. The barriers phased in and out of reality at precisely calculated intervals, trapping harvesters between dimensions. The assault on the door paused as the aliens encountered these new defenses. I felt a ripple of confusion spread through their ranks. They're communicating, Arya noted. Sharing adaptations. So they have a network too, I said. Can we access it? Attempting integration with Harvester Neural Network would exceed safety parameters. Safety parameters. I laughed. I think we're well past those, Arya. I pushed further, stretching my consciousness toward the alien presence. Their network was vastly different from ours, colder, more efficient, but also somehow emptier. Where our connections buzzed with emotion and individual thought, theirs hummed with singular purpose. As I brushed against their consciousness, I caught flashes of their perspective. Stars seen from ships that traveled between them, worlds stripped of resources, and always the endless hunger for more, more, more. And I saw what they called us, vessels. Not people, not even threats. Just containers of valuable neural tissue to be harvested and repurposed. The rage that filled me was incandescent. They don't even see us as alive, I told Dr. Khan. We're just resources to them. Then show them we're more than that, he said, his voice tight with his own anger. I pushed into their network with all the force of my expanded consciousness, backed by hundreds of orphans' minds. The harvesters' collective awareness recoiled at the intrusion, their single-minded purpose fracturing under the assault of our diverse, chaotic thoughts. For the first time, I felt fear ripple through their network. Alert, harvester ships are targeting the facility with orbital weapons, Arya warned. Impact imminent. They were going to destroy the entire orphanage rather than risk losing access to our neural tissue. Typical. When faced with resistance, the powerful always choose annihilation over compromise. Not today, I growled, reaching for the orbital defense grid. The satellites I'd activated earlier responded to my command, their weapons locking onto the harvester ships. But I knew from their network that conventional attacks wouldn't be enough, their shields would adapt too quickly. Instead, I reprogrammed the satellites to emit the same phasing frequency I'd developed for the internal barriers. The beams passed through the harvesters' shields as if they weren't there, striking the ships directly. Through the facility's external cameras, I watched 3 harvester vessels explode in silent bursts of light. Remaining harvester ships retreating, Arya reported. Internal threats still active. The lab door finally gave way, crumpling like paper as 3 harvesters stepped through. Their featureless faces turned toward us with eerie synchronicity. Dr. Khan placed himself between them and me, a futile but brave gesture. Keep fighting, Ellie, he said. Whatever happens to me. Nothing's happening to you, Doc, I assured him, and activated the lab's final defense. The floor beneath the harvesters shimmered and then simply ceased to exist, replaced by a phasing barrier calibrated to their specific molecular structure. They fell through, trapped between dimensions, not killed, but contained in a state of perpetual phase shift. Dr. Khan stared at the empty space where the aliens had stood. How did you? I'm a quick study, I said, though in truth, it was more than that. The interface had changed me, expanded my understanding beyond human limitation. I could see patterns within patterns, solutions within problems. But there was a cost. I could feel myself becoming less solid, my consciousness spreading thinner across the network. The interface was consuming me, just as Arya had warned. Integration at critical levels, Arya confirmed. Neural degradation beginning. Ellie? Dr. Khan's voice seemed to come from far away. Your nose is bleeding. I felt nothing, but when I raised my hand to my face, my fingers came away red. How long do I have? He checked the monitors, his expression grim. Minutes, maybe. We need to disconnect you before the integration becomes irreversible. If I disconnect, we lose control of the defense systems, I pointed out. The remaining harvesters will overrun us. If you stay connected, you'll die, he countered. Or worse, your consciousness will be completely absorbed into the system. Would that be so terrible? I wondered. To become something greater than human, to protect Earth from threats it never knew existed? But then I felt Nova's presence in the network, her fear for me cutting through the other sensations. And I remembered my demand. Humanity learns to fight without limits. No more orphans trained as weapons. There's another way, I said. The orphan protocol doesn't need to be centralized. It can be distributed. Understanding dawned in Dr. Khan's eyes. You want to split the interface capacity among all the orphans. Not just the orphans. Everyone. The technology can be adapted, made safer. No single person bears the full burden. It would take years to implement. Then we better get started. I began the process of redistributing the interface connections, carefully unwinding my own deep integration while maintaining the critical defense systems. But first, we need to finish this fight. With what remained of my connection to the network, I activated the orphanage's final defensive measure, a targeted electromagnetic pulse, designed specifically to disrupt the neural cohesion of the harvesters without affecting human technology. Throughout the facility, the remaining aliens seized up, their fluid forms suddenly rigid as their neural network collapsed. All harvester signatures neutralized, Arya reported. Threat level reduced to minimal. My vision began to darken around the edges as I completed the redistribution protocol. The weight of the full interface lifted from my mind, spreading outward to hundreds of partial connections that could sustain it without harm. "It's done," I whispered as Dr. Khan removed the interface helmet. My legs buckled, and he caught me before I hit the floor. "You did it, Ellie," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You saved us." "For now," I replied, my own voice weak but determined. "But they'll be back. And we'll be ready," he promised. "All of us, together. No more orphans fighting alone." The recovery took weeks. The physical damage to the facility was extensive, but the psychological impact ran deeper. The truth about Earth's orphanage. About what we were and why we'd been gathered, shook foundations and shattered trust. Director Kwan resigned in disgrace. Most of the scientific staff followed. Only Dr. Khan remained, working tirelessly to implement the distributed defense system I'd envisioned in those final moments of full integration. Nova found me on the observation deck a month after the attack, staring at the night sky through the newly repaired dome. The stars seemed different now, both more beautiful and more threatening. "There you are," she said, settling beside me. "Dr. Khan's looking for you. Something about the new neural interface design." I nodded but didn't move. "Do you ever wonder if we did the right thing? Exposing Earth to the truth about what's out there?" Nova considered this. People were scared at first. Some still are. But fear with knowledge is better than safety built on lies. "And the new recruits?" I asked. "Adults volunteering for the program instead of children being raised in it?" "Different," she admitted. "They ask more questions, that's for sure. But maybe that's good. Maybe questioning everything is how humanity learns to fight without limits." She was right. The old orphanage had been built on secrets and control, children molded into weapons without their knowledge or consent. The New Earth Defense Initiative was its opposite, transparent, voluntary, distributed. No more orphans trained as weapons. No more secrets. Everyone knowing what's out there, everyone having a chance to defend themselves. "We're going off-world next month," Nova said, changing the subject. "First human outpost on Mars. Dr. Khan wants you on the team." I raised an eyebrow. "Why me?" "Because despite everything, you're still the best interface navigator we have. And because he trusts you." Trust. Such a small word for such a monumental concept. It had been in short supply at the old orphanage, maybe that was its greatest failing. "I'll think about it," I said, turning my gaze back to the stars. Above us, the new defense grid hummed silently, thousands of minds partially connected to maintain its vigilance. Among them were former orphans, scientists, volunteers from every corner of the globe, humanity united not by fear but by shared purpose. The day Earth's orphanage was bombed, humans learned to fight without limits, not by becoming more ruthless or savage, but by becoming more connected. By sharing the burden rather than forcing it onto children. By replacing secrecy with transparency, control with cooperation. The harvesters would return someday. I knew this with the certainty of someone who had touched their alien thoughts. But when they did, they wouldn't find easy prey. They would find a humanity transformed, still flawed, still struggling with its demons, but standing together against the darkness between the stars. Mars, huh? I said finally, turning to Nova with a slight smile. Well, I guess someone has to make sure you don't break the first outpost. She grinned, the scar behind her ear catching the light. That's the spirit. Always the responsible one. One of us has to be. We sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars. Not as orphans or weapons or test subjects, but as people with choices and futures of our own making. And somewhere in the back of my mind, in the echo of a connection not quite severed, I felt Arya's presence, watchful, waiting, ready for whatever came next from the depths of space. Threat assessment ongoing, she whispered. Humanity adapting. Protocol successful. Indeed it was. The day Earth's orphanage was bombed, humanity didn't just learn to fight, we learned to evolve.